Whoopsies, my mic was muted this whole time. Oops. Okay. Well, I'm glad that I checked when I did. Um, Man, that was a close one. Okay, cool. Okay. So we can look at their opening really quick, and just sort of see what they did to start it off. Again, this is not a live game per se, but it's going to be played live. So Voice of Akasha he might go for the base first, but he's like has the option of going airport first if he wants to. Jokas does the same thing. Okay, but Voice of Akasha decides to grab the base first, which is a little more common in, well, I guess it's a little more common in standard to go base first rather than get like a city first because you're at low enough funding that it's not a big deal. Like the game that you get is not so big. Okay, so nearby capture, nearby capture, nearby capture, expanding out rather than going in. That's fine. That's fair. Like all this is nothing too exciting. I mean, he could have captured this first, but I guess this chains into this earlier, or it can go this way into that way. So this capture chain has more potential cities. So Voice of Akasha actually skips a nearby city build with Colin. That can make sense because you're like not so concerned about getting immediate funding because you can pump out more vehicles nearby anyways. Hey, what's up, Elise? Yeah, this is my first time seeing this map too, actually. We can check out the map here in a sec. Okay, so now we're caught up. Oh, they're moving now live. Okay, let me just take a quick look at this map. Okay, so this is a Mori map from 2012. See, Walker says it's nice. The properties might be slightly closer, too close near the center, but I think if you change the missile to light train, it'll be fine. Otherwise, it's a little hard to get an attack through. Okay, so yeah, the properties are pretty close together in the center. Okay, so that was the end of Jokas's turn. And because yeah, there's like 3 close cities here, 3 close cities there. Wait, does this map have an? Oh, okay. Actually, there's 4 cities that are within like infantry hop, infantry hop, infantry hop. So Elise says the center seems really weak with those road tiles. Yeah, maybe it's a cool map. Maybe not in T0, but yeah, coal seems pretty solid here in T4. So Voice of Akasha looks like he's trying to decide on a vehicle build. Generally speaking, tanks against Kanbei are. I've been told that tanks against Kanbei are usually not a good idea. So I wonder if we're going to see an artillery early. I mean, it kind of is like a conflict point for Voice of Akasha because he likes to build tanks with his. He likes to build tanks in live games, and then artillery. And he leans more towards artillery in async games. But in this scenario, Colin really needs to uh, not build tanks against Kanbei. They're basically glorified recons, so kind of dangerous. But yeah, this matchup's going to be interesting because, I mean, both Jokas and Voice of Akasha are excellent players, but I'd say Voice of Akasha typically has the edge. And it's Colin versus Kanbei, Colin played by Voice of Akasha, so we might see some pretty cool Colin strats coming out. Um, Colin's been experimented a lot with by Red Halo and others. Okay, so actually, with Akasha builds double artillery and skips an infantry build. That's pretty cool. Um, yeah, that's a really interesting idea. It looks like he skips the northernmost infantry, and the reason he does that is because like there aren't many cities for it to capture easily. Like there's this city way out here, which would take a while to get to, and then the com tower will be captured by this infantry presumably. So yeah, he definitely. Well, I guess he didn't build any infantry this turn, but skipping infantry on this front is like the most. Like there's not much to do. I don't know. I guess stacking the artillery on one side kind of makes sense because um, you want pairs of artillery to repel Kanbei tanks. Although Kanbei tanks can kind of attack into pairs of artillery and still come out on top. I think we can just see what happens when a Kanbei tank gets hit by a column artillery. Let's put it on road. Yeah, so even on road it does 50 damage. Well, 56. Oh, that's not the right unit. Okay, yeah, so 45 to 50 artillery on the Kanbei tank with road. So yeah, actually Kanbei can attack into double. So like if you have, I'm talking about this kind of scenario. You have a Kanbei tank. Like Kanbei can attack here and do like that damage, and then the artillery attacks and does that damage, and then the tank attacks again and it does that damage. So like, yeah, Kanbei tank can cost effectively hit into double column artillery. Looks like it looks like Jokas may have jumped to capture in order to capture this one faster. That makes sense because he wants to. No, it looks like he just went here, here, and then captured that early. Okay. Sorry, my foot was falling asleep. um. So yeah, I'd actually expect Kanbei tank, and then well, how much are Kanbei tanks? They're 7 times uh, 1.2, so it's 8.4. So yeah, I think it's like 8,400 for a tank. So if he builds a tank, he has to skip an infantry, or he could build an artillery. That's another option. But if he builds an artillery, then he certainly won't be making a tank the following turn. So I don't know. If you build a tank, then Akasha is just gonna. Well, yeah, those two artillery are out quite early. Um, yeah, my gut instinct is build a tank here and then an infantry here, maybe, and go for that city. Okay, he actually goes for an artillery. That's an option that I hadn't thought about too carefully, but as long as it's on good terrain, I think it can take two column artillery at the same time. We can look at the damage that's done here. So Kanbei artillery into column artillery is doing about like 70. Can you see the damage calculator in the box? Kind of not really. Okay. So yeah, this is what it's looking like. Seems fine. I mean, Jokas likes artillery builds, like opening artillery builds anyways, so it's not such a big deal. And I guess maybe an artillery from Kanbei baits out a tank from Colin, which are really weak. So that's maybe another idea. Although, just more artillery spam seems solid. Uh, so how much does a Colin artillery cost? Okay, so Colin artillery is a ridiculous 4,800. So I'm not very good at mental math, but 4,800, and then there's plus 8, 1,800. Yeah, okay. So he can do he can do artillery, infantry. Okay, and he does. Um, so let's see. Akasha goes for the center with his artillery, looking to lock these properties, I imagine. Well, this one will be captured by this infantry, but at least he'll be able to put some pressure on these two cities and hopefully capture them for himself. Oh, hey, hi, Jay. Um, I guess we are playtesting Colin. Yeah. I definitely want to send this video to Red Halo when I'm through recording it and see what he says. He has like an active game versus Jokas's Grit as Colin on Siren's Call, and that game is going to like a big draw type situation. Um, but I don't know. Grit has like 20 artillery or something, and Colin's been spamming rockets. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I'm really interested to see how Voice of Akasha plays Colin because I've always felt that T0 has some enormous explosive potential in the right hands. Like all of the T0 COs, I think, are pretty underdeveloped and not well understood. So the more excellent players we see playing them, I think the more we can learn. And already we're seeing like, yeah, nothing but artillery and infantry so far. So yeah, that's kind of cool. So it looks like Jokas doesn't have enough money for a vehicle this turn anyways, but the following turn he'll be able to build whatever light vehicle he wants. Okay, so now all I guess it is in turn, yeah. Oh yeah, a cool trick, you guys. For in refresh list, like when the box pops up and it sort of like slowly opens up, you can click on the box to make it disappear immediately. Matsuzen taught me that a few weeks ago, and it's nice for live games when you want to make a move immediately. Okay, so Akasha is making a contestable capture here with artillery backup. So, I mean, the only thing that could go wrong here is if the Kanbei infantry decides to interrupt this capture. It would eat an artillery shot. Like Kanbei's infantry would eat an artillery shot, but then yeah, there aren't any really good squares for for the Kanbei artillery to attack the artillery in this forest. Um, you would want if you wanted to go for that, you would want to put your artillery like on a forest or a city and put it in range of the Apollon artillery so that it's double attacked. while you're making the interrupt. But yeah, I mean, as it stands, if the artillery tries to get involved, we would see something like this. We would go here, put onto the plains. That probably doesn't go down to 4, probably like that. Um, and then Amber Blaze to move. Um, we would just do this, and then take the artillery shot. Yeah, it not good. So yeah, backing up the artillery isn't a great idea. Interrupting with the infantry could be okay. Okay, he decides just to capture the city. I mean, because the idea is like you're delaying your income, but you're also delaying your opponent's income. Um, and I think Kanbei just wants more and more money right now, so he can pump out enough light vehicles to match Colin. But of course, at the same time, once that happens, then Colin can start pumping out heavier vehicles. So it looks like both airports are captured now. So we can think about which CO we would expect to begin the B-copters. I think it's more advantageous for Colin to build B-copters than Kanbei. Kanbei B-copters are still frail to anti-air, even though they don't get one-shot, I believe. So yeah, Kanbei wants strong units that don't get cheesed, like that don't get cheesed in certain matchups, like tanks and medium tanks. Um, B-copters, however, of course, get hit really hard by anti-air, so Kanbei is a little bit more hesitant to build them. Colin, on the other hand, can crank B-copters out, and then force Kanbei to build anti-air, which are fine, but like they're not tanks. So yeah. Okay, so here we see a tactic that Voice of Akasha shared with me recently, which is like instead of worrying so much about interrupting captures, sometimes it's enough just to go and kill the capturing infantry after it finishes capturing. That prevents this infantry from chaining into this city. Although that city doesn't really belong to Amber Blaze in the first place. So actually, Jokas could make a pretty good run of going for this city here. So it's going to be move, move, capture first, interrupt. So it looks like Jokas won't get to the city before this infantry does. Because yeah, it'd be really brutal if this infantry got there first and could start capturing, and then there's no way you're taking that infantry off of this city with just an infantry. So one thing to note: this artillery is out of range of a base. Oh, actually, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, you know what? That's irrelevant. So Voice of Akasha has the option of putting all 3 of his artillery in range of this one artillery. The only issue is that they're going to get chipped down pretty hard by Kanbei infantry. So that's probably an idea that Voice of Akasha is thinking about right now. The other issue is they're all on roads, and they might get one shot. Yeah, they do get one shot. Um, so while Jokas is planning his builds, we could see that if we went like this, and this, and this, and capture, this one gets, you could like, how much do infantry do? So infantry do 20%. Okay, yeah, that wouldn't work because you could surround this artillery, bring it down to 4. Yeah, this, this, and this. This guy kills this artillery, and then Kanbei only gets like 2 minor shots off. Sorry, Colin only gets a full shot and a 4 HP shot to remove that. So yeah, it doesn't look like a good idea. Okay, so Jokas decides to build a tank. Um, yeah, I guess building the tank sort of forces Voice of Akasha to clump his artillery more. Whereas if it's like 1 artillery versus 3 artillery, then Voice of Akasha's artillery has like the numbers. So I guess they don't have to clump as much. In the meantime, though, I expect a B-copter from Colin. Um, his B-copter's cost, it's going to be 7,200, I think. So yeah, he could easily do B-copter, tank, infantry, I believe. Although instead of the tank, it's artillery probably sounds like a better idea. So I guess one interesting thing is, Voice of Akasha is going artillery, but it's harder to compute artillery moves under time pressure because they're pretty sharp for the most part. Um, but there's no real timer pressure; it's just self-inflicted. Like the timer is at 20 hours or no 20 days, so neither player is in a rush. So over here, it still seems worth it. Oh, I see. So actually, this artillery covers this square as well, which is nice. Akasha's probably wondering if he needs to move another artillery up here to reinforce the position. And he may be thinking about his builds in conjunction with that as well. Oh, this artillery is blocking this city too, which is pretty nice. Um, he does have to wonder if this infantry is just going to hop on the HQ and start capturing. Like, this isn't the end of. Like, such a move would be pretty. It would divert a lot of Akasha's army. So maybe Jokas could start capturing the HQ and then divert a couple of artillery in order to prevent it. So either like Akasha interrupts with 1 infantry and then it brings it down to like 9 or 8, and then he needs 2 artillery to clear to make sure the capturing artillery dies. Or he could interrupt with 2 infantry. Oh, never mind. It doesn't delay the capture of 318 here. So yeah, he could interrupt with 2 infantry, and then he would still need some artillery nearby, I think. Maybe that's what he was thinking so hard about, is if he could divert his artillery away. Okay, so he actually, yeah, I mean, kind of duh. Like, why even, right? Why even risk it? Just put the artillery in a place where it can cover both the neutral and the HQ. So, yeah, I was kind of looking too hard down one line, but just take the easy way out. So yeah, as for builds, I would expect a B-copter and an artillery, but you could go for a medium tank. That's another option. Like one interesting thing about this scenario right now is Voice of Akasha has a really big vehicle lead. He has 4 vehicles to Jokas's 2, and it's his turn to build. So you could also imagine like triple artillery, and then that kind of okay, actually medium tank. Okay, yeah. The thing about triple artillery is like oh, and a recon. Okay, does the recon? Yeah, so the recon covers the HQ, and it actually perfectly um, spends all of Voice of Akasha's money. So yeah, now the HQ capture seems like a bad plan because of the recon and the artillery and an infantry. Um, with a bit of work, I think Akasha can take this city. And then actually, this artillery could be placed to cover that square to prevent Jokas from capturing this city right here. Um, just place it on the missile Tylo. Yeah, I guess that'd be fine. So one nice thing about Voice of Akasha's formation here is that he double covers this infantry. So like it was an idea to hit this infantry with the artillery and then finish it off with this infantry. Oh my gosh, it almost one shot. That's ridiculous. Um, wow, that does a lot of damage. So yeah, now since it's at such low HP, I don't think it's worth sacrificing an infantry in order to finish it off. Um, so as for Jokas's build, against a medium tank, he probably wants another artillery, which costs him yes, 7.2 thousand. Um, or is it? Wait, I went the wrong way. Yeah, no, I went the right way. 7.2 thousand. So yeah, I guess Jokas could even go with 2 artillery, and that way he's like not super far behind in the vehicle count, um, or it catches him up a little bit. Because like the issue with falling too far behind in vehicle count is like you can just lose to clumping, pushing, and then you just don't have enough stuff to stop it. Looks like these infantry moves are holding up Jogas a little bit, or maybe it's the tank move. Okay, maybe not. Must have been thinking about something else, or he's like making some more moves before doing the hard infantry moves. Hey, what's up, Sharon? Um, okay, so the tank moves forward. I mean, it kind of makes sense to put it um, in the center area. The only issue is that with all these artillery, Akasha can sort of clump um, and sort of clump and push. But I guess that there are enough threats that these artillery can be doing outside that, like, if they do clump, Akasha's losing a lot of influence on this part of the board where this city's contested, losing influence up here where he's contesting this city pretty safely. Whoops, looks like my bit rate really dropped there for a second. Um, so I think Jokas is kind of taking advantage of the no timer by spending all this time thinking about infantry moves, which normally you wouldn't want to spend this much time thinking about. I guess I think so. Like, I don't think these moves are. I think you could make a lot of medium impact moves with your infantry without having to think super hard about where they're going. But again, he could just be thinking preemptively about his builds. So yeah, once again, I expect at least one artillery in response to the medium tank. Um, two artillery infantry makes the most sense to me. Again, B-copter, not an ideal unit for combat. Okay, so actually a tank. Yeah, I guess two artillery can fend off the medium tank well enough. You just need to get it in the right position. And presumably next to your other artillery so you can uh, push with power. So Jokas is just thinking about this last infantry move, and then it'll be Voice of Akasha's turn. I guess he has two infantry moves. So far, Voice of Akasha has really taken his own advice about fighting into Kanbei, which is to go artillery medium tank. And then the recon is kind of there. It helps fend off a potential HQ interruption, which would have drawn some of Voice of Akasha's attention to the HQ, and he'd rather be using those resources elsewhere. Um, so yeah, so far Voice of Akasha playing pretty textbook anti-Kanbei strats. Um, and then Jokas taking advantage of Kanbei's amazing tanks and uh, great defensive artilleries to interrupt the mid game a bit. But yeah, it won't be until Kanbei's on consistently two vehicles a turn that he'll really start taking off, I think. Although I don't know, like that's what he does against normal COs, but Colin is not a normal CO at all, so we'll see. So a couple ideas that so I guess there are kind of two main approaches that Akasha can do with his artillery. He can sort of fan them out and cover a lot of captures from happening. So this artillery can go here to um, secure this capture. You can see this artillery maybe moving into range of this city to prevent that capture, although might not be possible with all this firepower from Kanbei. And then similarly, we can have this artillery cover this city while this artillery goes down here and prevents this capture from happening. It does leave it open to a couple of infantry shots, but the recon should clear that up pretty fast, I think. Recon and then not really any infantry in range right now, but yeah. So I guess advantages, disadvantages. By fanning out, you can delay more properties for longer, which seems to be going more towards Colin's interests. Like Kanbei hasn't reached the 2 vehicle per turn mark, so in terms of income, so Colin can get a lot more vehicles out faster, like in particular artillery. Um, but by clumping his artillery, he can, uh, well, he can theoretically do more damage. But there's so many infantry in the middle that I think these artillery are going to struggle against the infantry chip damage here. Like the unit count isn't swayed too heavily one way or another. Yeah, it's pretty even, despite. Well, I mean, Voice of Akasha just skipped one base build, so not enormous, but you know. Yeah, this is a pretty tricky turn. You have to wonder too what the medium tank is going to do. Probably just run around the center and pick up straight hits wherever it can. And then you have to wonder too about the longer term strategy of how Colin is going to use his money. So when Red Halo first came onto the scene, he really experimented a lot with Colin going for Gold Rush Infinite Money. But it seems that now a lot of Colin players are favoring more the idea of just brawling with the cheaper units and then waiting until late game to start banking once you have like a sort of steady state and you're not at risk of suddenly losing. Okay, so say Akasha's going to go more towards the idea of fanning out. At least this first artillery is moving that way. Yeah, covering it from the infantry shot seems like a good idea. Just because, like, Kanbei infantry are so invincible that they can just kind of jump in and do damage. And then like not take a lot of counterattack from the infantry. Just get the free shot on the artillery, and then like Colin kind of needs all of the firepower he can get on his artillery because they don't do that much damage to Kanbei in the first place. So I'm curious to see what happens in this bottom corner because it is like a bit of an awkward situation for this artillery trying to cover that city. Jokas made a really good move by playing here instead of here, because this place is like protected, but it's more active, and it threatens attacking the artillery on a silo from the river. I can show you sort of that lower left corner. So if Akasha goes here, then so the recon ended up like here. So yeah, like this is just kind of, so it's probably at 7 HP. Yeah, this is just like a weird attack for Akasha to deal with. I guess he can kill this infantry here or damage both. But yeah, calling artillery at 7 doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It's not like Lash or someone whose weakened artillery are still strong enough to be a big threat. At least that's my initial evaluation. Oh, and then you could even reinforce with this tank. But you would probably not move it into artillery range, huh? Yeah, something like this. So maybe you do like that to prevent the capture. You probably just wait that infantry. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. It seems like even-ish, so yeah, I think moving, so like the branch we're at is moving the artillery down to cover that. But yeah, seems fine. You just need some support. And so in the meantime, Akasha has sort of bunkered down with these infantry. Okay, it's out of range. The medium tank went to center, kind of mid-center. I guess it's kind of like pulling a number of infantry to body block this artillery because the artillery is the only thing that can hit the medium tank. Okay, so it looks like he might go for it then, since he's now covering this city with this new artillery that moved in. Well, I guess the other thing that could happen that I didn't think about is this infantry could actually go to capture the HQ if the artillery moved to the square. And you just capture with both, which kind of forces, well, artillery could get a shot onto that infantry first. But then the tank is coming up and you don't have anything to block it. Yeah, that's actually it's actually relatively nasty. So if he moves here, then you can go here, here. And now, if the artillery shoots, either way, then the tank is still in range. So you kind of want to move your recon over. But now that gives up this city, and you have to like really double down on this HQ. Yeah, like it's not It's not great, but it is kind of volatile. Okay, so he decides to just retreat with this artillery and give this property away. Yeah, and I don't know, maybe Voice of Akasha just doesn't want a very volatile game right now because he's more heavily invested in artillery, and sort of he wants a more methodical, less game with fewer fireworks. So he builds a B-copter artillery. Seems totally reasonable. That was something that we were considering. That was something that we were considering for his build last turn, but he went with a medium tank recon instead. So far, Colin has been a bit further ahead in income just by a small margin. And then Kambe, uh, I mean, Kambe has really just had some properties denied by artillery fire. So actually, it does look like Akasha concedes this city to Kambe. Um, I was just looking to see if if Jokas could take this city right here. Doesn't seem completely. Like, maybe it's a possibility. Yeah, it captures with an infantry, and then, well, you don't really want to put this artillery in range of this guy. Yeah, so it'd just be a free artillery hit. Yeah, I'd probably just take this city, and then once you have this neutral city, then consider launching an attack a bit later. This is a pretty interesting game though. Like, just the anti-can based strats are so weird. I wonder more and more, like after seeing how Akasha's playing this game as Colin, like Kanbei just kind of seems like the tanks go burr CO, where he just spams tanks in live games and wins because you can't set up your artillery walls clean enough. So yeah, it kind of makes me wonder if in live games, Kanbei is like especially a good CO. Yeah. Although, yeah, I don't know. Maybe with enough practice, we can all learn how to artillery medium tank spam faster and like spend less time calculating possible attacks during all of our turns. So hold on. So Kanbei's artilleries cost 7.2k. So yeah, he can't really. So like 14.4. Okay, so he could actually do double artillery infantry, I think, if I did the math right. Um, I do fear though, like Jokas going double artillery infantry. Um, it would be pretty passive, I think. And since he has Akasha's army sort of split up between two different areas, I would think that he would want more mobile tanks to do to jump in there and do damage. Crush one side versus another. because yeah, Jokas does seem to be getting more and more control of the center. Although Voice of Akasha's medium tank is contesting that a little bit. Sometimes I wish I had a code commentator for these. Also, I kind of wish. Well, I mean, it's not gonna. It wouldn't be as high level of gameplay, but it might be nice to have a timer for these test games in the future. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it does kind of make sense to not play it with timer for the reason that I stated earlier that Kanbei probably just wins a lot of the time just by pressing the tank button. So Jokas actually diverts an artillery to cover this capture right here. Um, and that makes sense. I mean, I guess there are two column infantry that could interrupt. And then artillery back up to. Well, you'd probably just interrupt with one and then cover the city twice with artillery. This way, Akasha would probably lose a number of infantry trying to interrupt. But yeah, I guess yeah, if the medium tank swings up, that could block for the artillery, perhaps. We went here. Hmm. Well, it kind of all depends on what this tank does. Is that true? Oh, so Jokas actually answers B-copter with a B-copter. That's kind of interesting. I would have expected an anti-air. Kanbei anti-air are still pretty effective versus artillery, so it still hits pretty hard. Um, yeah, I guess the Kanbei B-copter does kind of force an anti-air out of column. So yeah, there's that. So I'm curious, how much does a column anti-air do to a Kanbei B-copter? Ooh, 84 to 90. Not a whole lot. That's at the tower too. Oh man. Okay, so looks like Jokas is gonna give Voice of Akasha this city here. Um, with that, then it looks like they're pretty much completely tied on cities. Um, once everybody finishes capturing. Um, yeah, it looks like like the position will be symmetric with respect to income. Like which cities are captured is symmetric. Um, unless he goes for a hero interrupt here. But the interrupt, well, there's nothing in. How much does this do? It does like 5. Okay, yeah, so it'll do 5 artillery shot, capture, infantry kill, and then that's that. So probably not worth it. So Jokas has all of his forces concentrated near the center here. I definitely smell like a big attack onto this city, um, with double artillery backup and lots of infantry walling. So I would think that Voice of Akasha's senses are tingling too, or he might want to reinforce this city pretty strongly. Smartly, Jokas has this artillery in range of this city that he's looking to capture, so the medium tank can't park there for a turn. Although even if it could park there for a turn, it looks a little dangerous. Like there's just a lot of potential trapping by the infantry. So maybe that would not be a good idea anyways. Looks like VOA is AFK, so I'm gonna go check in with Discord for us for a minute here. Here, we can look at another game. You want to see some GGG action? You can do that. Okay, so here's a fog game, which I'm not going to show you. And there's this one, which looks pretty bad. Not gonna lie. Took me forever to find this move. I had to sacrifice 2 infantry in order to prevent the lab capture. So I felt like it was the right move, but man, it was like hard to make it. I've been holding Super CO power for a while, trying to like threaten, but it's easy to just get run over. And then since I have the unit count advantage pretty sizably, but just not in his neck of the woods. So maybe it's best for me to just like, I can't ignore this push because there's too many infantry trying to capture my towers. But I was thinking either I can threaten collapsing on here with this force, or I can push down and then take his HQ. So I think going sort of mid-center with this force is the right thing to do. I was considering going down here, but I would have won. I would have like won the fight, but lost the war, so to speak. See if they've moved yet. Okay, couple of captures. Um, so yeah, fun game, pretty hard. Grim versus Kanbei. I blundered this pretty badly. You can kill it with the medium tank and then bomb my medium tank, which is super bad, but he's rated 700, so hopefully he won't see it. There's this game on Love and Literature, which I think is like has a high enough skill ceiling in the opening that I can do okay. So yeah, the opening seems pretty important on this one. Okay. Well, enough of me. Back to the game. Okay, so Akasha's just made 2 captures. Okay, so with this attack, he's really trying to cement this infantry capture. The 2 artillery are there to deter this tank from coming down and smacking it. Okay, so medium tank sort of takes a aggressive stand here, trying to get close to the city, but I think it will still get walled off. Well, I guess it does defend this artillery covering the city pretty well. So that's probably the purpose of that move. Um, Yeah, this is where like the movements get pretty delicate, so that's why he took so long on this turn. Um, Artillery in the forest looks way too scary. Like there's too many two-hit KOs available on this square and this square for infantry. Um, I mean, it might even just be worth it to cover like the squares on the outside of the city. Oh, okay, all right. So let's see how he walls this because I didn't see a good way for him to do it. Defensive and artillery. Maybe he just leaves it out in the open like that. He does. Very cool. Yeah, that's like a wow. That's a big brain move if I ever saw one. So he's opening himself up to a tank shot, but he has a dedicated artillery to counteract that and a beacopter. It looks like this beacopter will be uncontested in this region for another turn. Okay, then a big build of 2 artillery and an anti-air. That worked out really well. Like the funding worked out really well for that. It's pretty much what you want to see as Colin in this scenario. I mean, megas are good too, but don't ask for too much. So we can look and see if Jokas still has like a solid attack idea in the center to take this property. I think he does. Um, it's just going to cost him a bit to get the city. So let's look at the move planner. So you could do something like okay, stop highlighting. Okay, thank you. Um, I mean, I'm just trying to make a basic wall here. How does this look? I don't know, just do this. Like this is just kind of a off the cuff wall. Um, the fact that it's backed up by the artilleries is really strong because it means that these artilleries can't really wall very well. I mean, as it stands right now, you could do artillery infantry or artillery beacopter and then have the medium tank attack an artillery. Hmm. So yeah, this beacopter doesn't quite cover the outer edge of the wall that I was constructing there. Um, but yeah, I guess you do. Oh, maybe hit with medium tank artillery and then the beacopter hits in. Yeah, that's how. Oh no no no! The B-copter gets hit by the other B-copter. Bring up anti-air. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Just have to find out. Okay, so it looks like his artillery move is already in a different configuration than I had. Um, he's just slowly inching forward with his big, massive units in the center. I don't know what it is about this matchup, but it just feels like Voice of Akasha has way fewer units. I think it's just the fact that Kanbeis are a little bit more clustered, and the units are just invincible. So it just feels like he has a higher unit count because he can't two-hit KO effectively. And no, this artillery cannot be hit by this tank. Close though. So Kanbei is almost at 18k, and well, we can just do what's 1.2 times 115. Uh, yeah, 1,800. So right, because it's times 3,000. Yeah, so at 1,800, Kanbei is effectively at 2 vehicles and an infantry per turn. Um, I mean, 2 light vehicles. So you could do, oh, in particular, tank, infantry spends all of his money. I guess we could compute the same thing with Colin and say, what's 0.8 times 15,000? So with minus 0.2, which is minus 3. So 13,000 gives Colin the same type of advantage. Um, or like the same type of build order, like 2 tanks infantry. That's like a good number to keep in mind when you're playing with these when you're playing with these COs. So Colin is probably in the looks like he's in the range of 2 medium tanks, or sorry, medium tank infantry. Um, which yeah, medium tanks block really well against Kanbei, so that's really good. Um, they sort of promote more passive gameplay, so we might see more of that. I wonder actually if these two players are going to draw sometime soon, because I don't see much of a reason for Colin to attack in, and Voice of Akasha isn't giving Jokas much room to attack in with all of his artillery. But I think we still learned a lot from this game. We can see how medium tank artillery can be used to at least stall out Kanbei as Colin with like good artillery placement. Um, yeah, so I'm curious to see how Jokas responds to um, this unit matchup as the game goes on, because like it's easy to say, okay, spam artillery medium tank against Kanbei, but then what does Kanbei do in response? Well, build artillery. So So then, how do you deal with big artillery infantry walls as Kanbei? That's like the next level of the matchup, um, and like the next, yeah, the next level. So then, let's see. Against artillery spam, and you have more money. Well, rockets. Yeah, do you do like a rocket for Kanbei is 8,000 gold, so we have to save up a turn in order to get it. Sorry, 18,000 gold. Um, so yeah, actually, we might be seeing rocket spam from Colin. Although knowing Voice of Akasha, at least some of his preferences from watching enough of his streams, I think that he's not a big fan of like playing lame in a live game, so to speak. Um, but what else can you do? More medium tanks. I mean, they're gonna wall for your artillery. Um, bombers don't have any great cost-effective units to suicide into. Um, oh, stealth bombers maybe. Yeah, like actually stealth seems pretty good. Or he could just go for turbo stall, um, and then go for the money strat. Force Kanbei to attack. That's another option. I have 9 viewers and no chatters. Are all of you guys bots? Hello? Let's see. So, yeah, I think, yeah, if it was in my shoes, I would probably go for, like, if I really wanted to win as Colin, I'd probably go for rockets, and then rocket stall, artillery stall, and then try to save money where you can, and then the problem is like when the fighting starts happening, it's gonna be fireworks. So you kind of want a gold rush. You want a little bit of active fighting, but not like giant army clashing. Um, when you're trying to go for 2-star powers, I think, because you don't want to lose all that charge during your CO power turns. Ah, we have a move. I think someone might have been in the move planner. Although I don't know, like I think he can. I think Voice of Akasha can do a lot of this stuff in his head. I cannot. I am guilty of using the move planner in live games. I do it pretty much every time. Okay, so he's actually going for a city capture here that I didn't notice. So 4 artilleries and a medium tank is like nothing to scoff at. This is cool. I'm glad to see a little bit of spice happening this game. Nice blocking with the B copter for the anti-air. Sorry, for the artillery. I keep calling them anti-air because they look like anti-air. They have like a little snout that points up. That's my excuse. Um, the nice thing about this attack is, so it looks like Voice of Akasha fanned his units out a bit for the captures on the edges, and now he's collapsing back down on himself like an accordion, so he can make a strong like this medium tank is really cool. It's just serving as this like linchpin to this whole defense by sitting in this one tile that would otherwise be to hit KO city. Let's see, so Jokas does have an attack on this artillery with his tank, interrupted the B copter, finished capturing, and then he does have some things going for him. Let's see what they are. Actually, let's wait till he ends his turn first. And then while Jogas is thinking it through, we can think it through with him. Well, actually, this is fine. So we could do that. That? No, probably this. So that definitely 2-hit KOs. Well, you're not going to artillery cover this tank because it's going to get roasted by artillery fire anyways. That's a lot of artillery. Oh, and another one there. Yeah, that actually looks pretty bad. So yeah, let's not do that. So Voice of Akasha ends his turn. Ooh, spicy. 3 infantry builds. Okay, so maybe he's anticipating a fight, so he's saving up for a gold rush. Man, that's cool. Very cool. Man, Voice of Akasha is so good. I started watching chess YouTube last night, and there was like, I don't know, Ben Feingold was talking about how much better Hikaru and like some of the other like super GMs are than him, and he was said something like, they're so much better than you that like you don't even appreciate how much more better they are than you." It's like I don't know. I feel a similar way right now. So yeah, Jokas can go for a more column interrupt by just interrupting with an infantry and then locking it with an artillery. That's like it's a fine move. So because Jokas hasn't built an anti-air, his B-copter is his only anti-air against Colin's B-copter. So it looks like doing a like interrupting with B-copter and then taking out anti-air that comes in to kill it is actually not in Jokas's best interests right now because then he'd have nothing to deal with this B-copter. So that's kind of a disadvantage of responding with B-copter is that you have to be more careful with it. So that's actually a pretty nice find with this infantry move, um, because it's like sitting on a 3-star terrain. So getting interrupted with infantry seems like a bad idea. The recon could get involved, but it's being used as a body blocker right now, and I don't see that going away. Also, can we just appreciate how nasty it is that Kanbei gets a 9-5 split from an infantry on a plane to an infantry on a city? That is ridiculous. This is nice too. He's threatening the city capture with his own infantry. Um, just really like putting threats all over the board when things aren't quite going his way in the center. So Jokas has enough for tank RD infantry if he wants to do that. Um, another beecopter would be fine, I guess, but he wouldn't be able to build another vehicle with it. It's Star-Lord time. um, the rest of his units could be shuffled around a bit, but it seems fine as they are now, pretty much. The danger with just like being too passive with your shuffling around of units in like Wally games is that people can like set up around your weaknesses in your wall and and sort of pick it apart that way. And both these players are talented enough to realize that, and so they're actively managing their walls instead of just like setting and forgetting them. This is really cool though to see Voice of Akasha's threat in the center be responded with by a threat on the sides. Okay, so now Jokas does build an anti-air. Yeah, it's usually a solid choice. It's hard to go wrong with responding to Beecopter with anti-air unless you're on a weird map. Hmm. I'm looking at Voice of Akasha's options here in capturing this city. Sorry, in defending this city. Well, this artillery could go here, and that works for now. Oh my gosh, it does no damage. Oh my gosh. Recon infantry does 9 damage to a Kanbei infantry. Wow, that is some bull honky. I wonder if he's got a joint cap. Um, Probably not. Well, well, the artillery is in the way to interrupt it. Well, you could do infantry here to kill and then join cap. But then artillery infantry is just going to kill it. Yeah, this game is like very stalled out. He does have a fair bit of money. Um, hmm. I think maybe it's best if he just retreats with his 5 HP infantry. Hard to say. The Kanbei anti-air is also really good at interrupting, not interrupting, it's really good at OKOing infantry on forests and cities and such. I think it OKOs on cities. Yeah, it does with the tower. Okay, so Voice of Akasha does split his army, but he does have an awful lot of artilleries in the part of the map where he's most likely to get hit. Oh, hey, Master of Math. So it doesn't seem like Kanbei got nearly enough out of the opening to compensate for Colin's powers. It's also a position where he can't do much attacking, which really suits Colin. Yeah. Colin's kind of at the stall phase where he goes up, gets a lot of money. Like the medium tank he has done so much for walling. As long as Colin can hold on to his corner cities, which so far he is, but it looks like this city might go down to Kanbei. Um, yeah, we'll see. I mean, basically, like the position is like all of the Um, all of the cities have gone to the rightful owners with like no big swaps. Um, so yeah, pretty quiet opening. Um, and then Colin has enough artillery to sort of sit back and build up for the big gold rush. I mean, I guess he does have to be careful not to let his vehicle count get too low. Um, so I would expect like artillery. Okay, a tank. All right. I mean, tanks are good for powering charge, and they body block pretty well now that the anti-air is on the field. Voice of Akasha still has a bit of money in the bank. Hasn't spent it all. Looks like Jokas saved up a bit last turn too. So actually, I think it's not too unlikely that we see a probably a bomb. No, not a bomber. Probably a medium tank gets just roasted by all these artillery. But maybe that's fine. Maybe you just soak with the medium tank and then set up your artillery to do damage. Um, but then you would probably attack the artillery and not the medium tank. I don't know. All I know is Jokas has money, and I think he intends to spend it pretty quickly because Kanbei doesn't get any use out of holding funds back unless it's to buy a big unit. Nice move by Jokas in the upper right to push the infantry off of the city um, while setting up for a capture. I think this game has been like going for an hour and a half now. Yeah, that's hour and a half long game. Whew. I really wish they would have set a timer. Although, yeah, no, I do because if they want to play an async game, then it should be done with async commentary. Oh man. Um, so yeah, I guess Kanbei medium tank makes some sense because it can engage onto. Well, I guess the one good thing is right. It can like first strike on a Collins medium tank, and so it's a pretty good wall buster because once that's gone, um, Jokas's tanks can actually do some work. Akasha is patching that up a bit by building some tanks, so he'll have like some better body blockers. But Kanbei medium tanks one shot those pretty easily. I think we can look that up. Okay, so they one shot on planes. which is pretty good. One-shot some planes really nice. Although, yeah, and planes and roads. The center is like pretty lightly, has some pretty light terrain for the most part. It's just like a pair of forests, a lot of roads, and a few cities. So a medium tank for Jokas costs 32 plus 160. So 19.2 thousand. It sounds right. I haven't played a lot of Kanbei or Colin in a while. Okay, so actually Jokas goes for more artillery rather than a medium tank. Um, Another artillery, maybe? Yeah, trying to figure out what his last build's gonna be. Another artillery would be fine, I think. Um, no infantry. Okay, I guess he's just maybe Jokas is worried about the tech unit, like the stealth coming out, so he can respond with fighter. Because yeah, I mean Akasha is like um, has a lot of money saved up and can really invest in any unit he wants to. Um, and it also serves as like a gold rush um, threat. So yeah, I think yeah, it is a little interesting to see Jokas not go for a tech unit. But yeah, as I said, he's like it's interesting seeing Jokas not teching up. But I think yeah, I think he's just waiting to make sure Akasha doesn't go stealth or mega tank. I don't really know how Kanbei medium tanks do against Colin mega tanks. We can find out though. Okay, so Colin mega tanks actually roast Kanbei medium tanks. So when they're both on roads, 35 and return damage at 50. So yeah. So yeah, Colin mega tank is like another possible option. So we see Kanbei retreating a little bit in the middle, just sort of regrouping. Um, Despite how stally this looks, they're only at um, they're like in the low 30s for their unit count. So one nice thing about like this artillery formation that like this artillery game that Voice of Akasha has kind of initiated and Jokas has followed along with is that it's going to be really hard for Jokas to get like a really big um, initial attack in, or it's going to be hard for either player to engage with a lot of their force at once. Um, without dying, um, which again sort of like helps Colin stall for money. Ugh. Just had to set up there for a sec. See if anything's happening in Discord while they're making their turns. Uh, should we look at other games? Okay, so Akasha's starting to move now. It looks like he's moving very passively with his artillery in the upper right. And it looks like Akasha can threaten this area as well, like kill this infantry and then move an infantry in position to take out this city. Hmm. What's interesting here is like Colin's income is low enough that like just a single gold rush with this much income gives him an income's amount worth of units. So I don't really know what that means, but yeah. Okay, so it's like Voice of Akasha hardening down the defense on the sides. Um, but he still has enough artillery and tanks left over in the middle that he can continue to like zone out Jokas in the middle. There is an attack here where the artillery, or the, I get those two mixed up all the time, where the anti-air kills this infantry and then you attack the beecopter's other range. And then you attack the artillery, which is on a city. But I have a feeling that these two artillery are gonna make like a coherent clump. I wonder if I should turn on some music for for Colin and Gambe. Just need something to pass the time as these guys are figuring out their turns. Because Lord knows I can't figure these turns out fast enough. Um, okay, he's picking up the pace a little bit here. So far, it looks like this city is under a lot more pressure than this city. Like this upper right city is pretty well defended by Voice of Akasha. And then lower left here, he has an awful lot of artillery looking to shoot down the infantry guarding this city. But then again, it wouldn't be too hard for an artillery to just sit here and lock it down. Since neither player really has a lot of fast attacking units, um, you can threaten something with a lot of artilleries, and then like it'll be threatened by both players, but neither player can neither player can engage the other unit that's making a threat. So it gets kind of standoffy. So Voice of Akash is slowly acquiring more and more money um, through uh, some artillery builds that don't spend all this cash. I wonder if he's considering a stealth at the moment. Because a fighter for Kanbei is worth 24,000. No, no stealth. Okay. Okay, well, the pace has picked up a bit. Jokas seems to have successfully defended this bottom city pretty strongly. Um, I mean, there's a tank shot available, but it just does so little damage that it's not worth it. So, trying to think if Voice of Akasha is like looking for a small engagement to get a gold rush going. Um, Unfortunately, he's kind of at the place at a place where he kind of needs all the units that he has. He doesn't really need the B copter. The medium tank is invaluable. Both tanks are going to be good body blockers in a little bit. The Recon's a good body blocker. And he has a lot of artillery, but it's really his artillery numbers that are helping him out the most. So like he can search for a small engage, but he kind of has to rebuild what he trades away. What else is there to do? Kanbei again has like a fair amount of money, but it's not fighter money, so I wonder if he's going to save up a bit more so he can respond to stealth with fighter. Although, that kind of works to Colin's benefit because then that's like a fair amount of, 1800 minus like, what is it? Let's say like 28. So that's 10K of Kanbei's money that's just sitting around ready to click the fighter button. Whereas Colin's saving contributes to Gold Rush later on. I mean, Jokas can almost make like a case to go after the city here with all the defense that he gets, just because it'd be such a pain the Voice of Akasha to kill it off. Yeah, Jokas doesn't quite have enough artillery in order for that to work. So I wonder if we're going to see an artillery build out of him here. Man, oh man, do we need a timer or what? It's turning into a Wargroove tournament. So I would expect another infantry here from Jokas. Otherwise, he's going to get stealthed, I think. But even if he does 800, it's no. Even if he does build an infantry, he'll get stealthed, or he could get stealthed. Hmm. Okay, so he decides to build an artillery, which doesn't leave him a lot of money to respond to what Voice of Akasha builds next turn. Um, I don't think that there's nearly enough. Yeah, there's like no damage available for Voice of Akasha to suddenly charge Soup CO power. Uh, it's funny because because the army compositions are both so artillery heavy. Like the two walls can get very close to each other, but there's not enough like breaking potential for either side to jump on the artillery. On one hand, I kind of hope they draw so that I can go do something else. Because like it's gonna be a while before anything happens, I think. But on the other hand, I kind of want to see what happens when they play it out. I'm a little bit split. The thing is, I just don't see anything happening anytime soon because Colin is in save mode and Kanbei is in slowly build up a lot of strength mode. As I said before, neither of them really have much initiation power. Like, I mean, if Jokas wanted to attack, oh, actually, it's not even his turn. Okay, so while they're sitting here thinking, I'm actually just gonna pull up other games. Let's see. Oh yeah, have you guys seen this game yet? Amazing. It's been going on for a long time. And Valuo just is making infantry photographs, and he has one of each unit. Oh man, kind of like dancing on them. Let's see. This game is pretty cool. It's been back and forth. Yellow Comet to move. I expect like a max force. Or not a max force, a max blast. So while Akasha's moving his units, let's. So I was expecting max force here. Hello? I don't know the. Oh, I'm not on a refresh list. That's why. But yeah, this medium tank hits this medium tank, and then the copter hits this guy. You could even. There's a lot of tanks down here that can get hit pretty hard by all the tanks over here. So like at present, the unit count is even and the unit number is pretty even. Income goes to Chinese player, but yeah, I expect this is going to hurt a lot when all these tanks come crashing down here. Okay, let's see what's going on. Okay, so Voice of Akasha transitioning to the bottom pretty hard. My first thought is like, does he think his HQ is under pressure? I think the answer to that is maybe. I mean, there's a lot of stuff right around here that could do HQ damage. So Jokas is nowhere near medium tank build range just because he's like so poor right now. So this medium tank seems to be here to stay. I mean, the worst he could do to it is like B-copter into it, and then anti-air cleans it up. Jesus Christ, that scares me every time. Hi, Jokas. Okay. Oh, you didn't even have the volume for it. Oh, you didn't get to hear the grim music. Let me turn on my desktop audio so that the next follow YouTube can hear the grim music. Oh man. Yeah, so far some slow moves here. As I'm just gonna okay, he's moving a bit more. Beacopter as a shield. It's really good. Uh, yeah, so that's that. We get back in. See some more. Oh yeah, this one had like a pretty good adder CO power. Jake to move and like it's kind of lost control of the center. But it does look like he'll get a good attack onto the B-copter and the mech hits the anti-air. So there's a lot of cleaning up that he can do on the right side. Oh, Jokas says that Voice of Akasha bans stealth. Colin is very strong if stealth is available. Oh. Yeah, sure enough, stealths are banned. Okay, well, with that in mind, this game might last a lot longer. Yeah. Okay, so Voice of Akasha builds a mega tank. Those can take hits from Convey pretty well. I think yeah, I just don't really see a lot of ways for either player to move forward right now. Well, Jokas takes his turn. Let's look at more games. So yeah, that's like yeah, Devil's Left Hand, the red guy, seems to be doing okay, despite the fact that he's like kind of boxed out of the center. Oh, I haven't seen this game. Oh, Sony Superior with a coal pick. That's nice. Okay, there's some movement in our game. Um, yeah, well, the anti-air sort of takes away the B-copter blocking option, so this formation needs a new needs some renovation in order to keep working. And the issue with Colin versus Kanbei is Kanbei can just use his infantry to block everything because nothing can kill them in one shot. So, but on the other hand, Colin needs to um, build a lot of other units in order to body block, which are a lot more expensive. So Master Math says countering the Con Mega is going to be super hard for Kanbei. Yeah, that seems about right. I mean, it'll take a few artillery shots. So let's look at what artillery does. So Kanbei artillery does 20 to 30 on Con Mega Tank on roads. But it usually won't be on a road. Let's say it's like on a forest, and it's doing 16 to 24. So yeah, Kanbei needs to. Well, I mean, the Mega Tank is kind of a bait unit too, because it can take the artillery hit and then charge a ton of Super CO power meter at the same time. So the Mega Tank can get aggressive, get hit, and then charge up meter for a gold rush, which is going to bring even more Mega Tanks. And then you kind of have like the slow thing where you get the Mega Tank hit, you retreat, you gold rush, build more Mega Tanks, and now you're in like a stronger position because of the Mega Tanks that you've now acquired. But it looks like Jokas is sort of taking some initiative here and pushing hard towards Voice of Akasha's HQ, which that's I mean, like if he anticipates the same thing happening that I do, which is um, Mega Tank, Mega Tank trades into Gold Rush into more Mega Tanks, then like taking a big uh, attack into the HQ seems like a good idea because it gives Conbase a way to win. You know, though, Jokas doesn't really have like any great engaging units in the south except for, well, I guess now three tanks and a bunch of infantry. Yeah, it's like a fair amount of firepower. So I think the game just got a lot more interesting here. Oh, that's nice. Um, Covering the artillery from the side so that the B copter can't sneak around the corner. That's a good observation by Voice of Akasha. One good thing for Colin here is that his mega tank's going to reinforce the position quite soon. In fact, he might just build another mega tank just to shut down this push. Or, a bomber might be good as well. Now that the anti-air is on the complete opposite side of the map. Time to fight Mega with a true sword, like a true samurai. That's right. Keep your moral spirits up, Jokas. Master Math says Bomber only does like 5 to a Mega though, so lose a whole Bomber to that is pretty unimpressive. Oh, I meant a Bomber for Colin, just because there's no anti-air on the lower left side. It was just an idea. I think another Mega is probably better. Yeah, yeah, Kanbei Bomber. Well, we can look. I'm guessing it does like 6 HP. Oops. But then, oh my gosh, it does 5 HP. Yeah, 5 HP Bomber into 5 HP Mega. That's not bad. Um, yeah, that's pretty intense. Master Math says, yeah, Bomber in a position like D's versus Kanbei, probably not ideal because he can deal with it cost effectively. The same isn't true for a Mega. Yeah, the only reason I said Bomber is because Kanbei has no anti-air on this side of the map at all. I mean, he can build an anti-air here. Actually, that reinforces pretty quickly. So yeah, Mega, for my money, another Mega if seems fine if you want to like shut down the HQ push. But maybe you want some exchanges happening as Colin, so you can get your um, get your power going. The issue though is like you can't get your power and retreat when the fighting is around your HQ. So you can't do the strat of like do a bit of fighting, get your 2-star power, retreat, and power, so that the next attack, the next exchange is power to your bar. You have to you can't retreat from your HQ. But yeah, I like how this game has spiced itself up. Thank you, Jokas and Voice of Akasha, for not rocket spamming. So Master Math says unit limit might be good since then Kanbei has to shed infantry. But I think there is a unit limit. Oh, it might be good for Colin. Um, yeah, I guess he does have to shed infantry. And his infantry, of course, are just ridiculously strong. So this B-copter is going to be able to. He can sacrifice this infantry to kill this infantry, and then his B-copters on the back lines here with all these exposed artillery. So Master Math says, yeah, I mean playing for unit limit rather than trying to initiate trades. Oh, okay, sure. Although I don't know, a like an army of 50 Kanbei tanks doesn't sound great either. 50 tanks and artillery. Okay, so Voice of Akasha does go with another Mega. Um, Presumably with the idea of shutting down the HQ push. We have a low fuel artillery on the board at 14 fuel. Wow, that artillery deserves a veteran award. Needs to do 130 damage, 130 HP. Okay, so we have a infantry engage here. Well, the infantry are attacking from pretty high defense, so it's not going to be super easy to kill them. So pound for pound in the bottom left here, Jokas almost matches Voice of Akasha in terms of artillery. He has some tanks thrown in there, but he doesn't have any of these heavy units that Voice of Akasha has. Um, so he really needs those artillery to stay safe. I'm not sure what this attack in the center is supposed to accomplish. Um, like, is it just to give the artillery targets to shoot at so you can make some other threat, or what exactly is going on? I mean, this region is a little bit weaker for Voice of Akasha, just in terms of number of artillery covering and no mega tank. Well, this one can hit this infantry. So yeah, he can move his artillery into this corner here, into this little box. Okay, he gets a tank involved. Um, Bigger commitment here. Hmm. So it looks like he might be going after all the body blockers. Get this tank attacking this tank. Oh, he goes for the artillery instead. Okay, I mean, fair enough. Oh, that also means that his artillery can be pretty active in this square. Although, okay, so we do have Gold Rush coming up for Voice of Akasha. Things are getting exciting. So what Voice of Akasha has to look at this turn is that not too many of his body blockers die off. Um, so with the Gold Rush, this will put Voice of Akasha around 40k. And I think with that, you just, I think with 40k, you do, you can't really do double mega though, can you? Because it's 28, so 40, so about 5 minus like 23. Yeah, so you can't do double mega. Um, Although, yeah, with this attack here, you probably want to. Maybe you don't want to Gold Rush quite yet, but that is a big scary force, so you probably want another Mega down there. You save up for all the charge you're going to get and then double Mega in 3 turns or something. But yeah, this, I mean, it all comes down to like defending this push, because like, and not losing too much here for Voice of Akasha. That's really the most important thing. Jokas makes a nice move by going for this capture while posing all these other threats. And he's caught these units up here somewhat out of position. It's not horrible, but they were doing useful stuff earlier, and now they're not. So Voice of Akasha might take a little while figuring out this counterattack. Um, there's just a lot of targets for these artillery to hit. One thing you definitely need is you definitely need your mega tank to be activated pretty much right away. Um, However, any square where it is active gets hit twice by artillery, which will take it down to like about 60 health or so. So here comes Voice of Akasha's attack. Yeah, I wonder if he's going to go after this artillery so that, oh, bummer. Well, he can move an infantry over and finish it off. So that his mega tank can attack this tank without getting smacked twice. He could move his tank over to his medium tank over. Oh, there you go, 2 HP. Nice. So then medium tank over to hit that. Oh, but then it gets hit twice. Yeah, there we go. Tank hits. Mega tank cleans up that tank. And crucially, Colin has 5 bars, or sorry, 6. So that's you can hold 3 gold rushes. So yeah, I think he may just not gold rush quite yet and build up more charge, and then use the gold rushes as like not only as the power itself, but like as a way of um, dealing extra damage and having extra defense. Or he could just gold rush at the end of this turn. Well, they're scaling, so really only 2 gold rushes. Yeah, true. Good point. Yeah, he can only hold 2 gold rushes. Okay, so Anti-air gets involved. They get onto the B-copter. Um, I wonder if the medium tank retreats to shield. Although I don't really know what it can shield that doesn't get decimated. Um, this is these moves here are pretty tricky. Because if you don't shield these 2 artillery, then they get smacked by a tank and a bunch of infantry. So maybe the thing to do is medium tank shot from here with the artillery, clear this out, and then just infantry attack over and over in this region, so you can somewhat shield your artillery from infantry shots. So yeah, Voice of Akasha taking his time here. I think medium tank here seems really good. You clear this infantry and then you start. Well, if this one's on a forest, so it's a little tough. You could bring the beak up. No, it doesn't reach the square. Voice Akasha deep in the calculator, I imagine right now. Okay, so he actually retreats his medium tank back. Um, Unfortunately, I think that means that these 2 artillery are going to fall to tanks and infantry. So with T0, like you can look at the metrics of like the usual suspects of unit count, unit value unit value plus stored income and stuff like that. But I feel like in tier 0, there's just like so much ridiculous stuff that happens that you can just sort of throw out some of those numbers out the window depending on the matchup. I mean, like when they're lopsided enough, they matter, but like they're just weird enough that sometimes the numbers don't tell the whole story. Okay, here comes Gold Rush. That makes sense. He charged almost enough for a second Gold Rush. And yeah, I wonder if he'll just do Mega Infantry so that his second Gold Rush will get him more money. I mean, you could do like bomber infantry. Although again, I guess the anti-air gets there pretty quickly. The other thing I haven't mentioned yet is that Jokas is going to get Samurai Spirit soon enough, and I'm just looking to see if he has like an HQ cheese this turn. Okay, that didn't suicide. I don't know if that was intentional or not. Yeah, Voice of Akasha might just have to park a Mega Tank on the HQ in order to prevent it from getting sniped by Samurai Spirit. You can't clear Mega and can't clear medium tank, so nobody can really kill Artie, right? Um, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yeah. I think he wants to hold on to Samurai Spirit here, just to keep the threat going of the big strong HQ push. Unless he wants to like move all of his artillery into range of Collins' artillery and just sit there and push them back. But yeah, probably not what you want. I think it's better to just like force these heavy tanks to be close to the HQ or on the HQ so that they can defend against the HQ steel. Wow, infantry even against 110 defense still does 7 damage. It's crazy. Voice of Akasha did do a nice job of like keeping his artillery mostly in like a diagonal line, so that they cover each other against enemy artillery. So yeah, that's a nice little detail. Missing that KO kind of hurts because that tank could have taken out the anti-air. So it looks like Jokas is going to have a lot of infantry injured after Voice of Akasha's turn, unless he just decides to not take the free hits and rotate down to the center area. So Jokas has to decide what to build next. My guess would be he'd be going more towards tanks this turn, because there's a lot of injured artillery roaming around that the tanks can clean up. Um, Although he still needs stuff against the mega tanks, but he can't ignore that. So yeah, both tanks and artillery seem like solid builds here. So I'm thinking Voice of Akasha might have the option of sticking a mega on the HQ, killing off that tank, and then just like clearing this little area here, um, and then putting heavy tanks up here, and then his artillery back a bit. The build choice here is like difficult, I think, because as I said, you want tanks for clearing the anti-air, and you want tanks for clearing the weakened artillery, and artillery for threatening the big heavy units. So yeah, here goes artillery, tank, infantry, so a little bit of everything. Um, so Voice of Akasha is going to get a really juicy gold rush off this turn. Um, I imagine he's probably going to spend it all. So he'll gold rush and end up with 52k. I think he might just spend it all on mega tanks so he can like clear this for good. Um, Colin's super CO power is not like sometimes it's better just to have a ton of mega tanks. So Master Math says, this is kind of terrifying. Didn't expect this, but I guess it shows the power of Kanbei infantry and artillery. Yeah, really. I mean, like the counterplay to Kanbei, like people are saying, like spam artillery medium tank, but when like Kanbei responds with artillery infantry, it's like that you have to deal with that now. So, and we're seeing one of the best players to ever pick up the game try to deal with that from the Colin side. And I think it just comes, you know, Colin doesn't have a particularly good matchup against Kanbei in the first place. Um, but I don't think the game's over. I think the mega tanks can camp out on the corners here, like on the HQ, and then immediately surrounding the HQ, and then have all of these artillery back here defending the HQ push while he pumps out. He'll get like two mega tanks and something else, to maybe clear out the infantry in the center. I don't know. Okay, so artilleries are starting to fire, and they're doing like no damage. Um, so yeah, Master Math says it's also a pretty small map, right? Which, yeah, I don't think it's over at all. The infantry are just a pain to clear through. I mean, the danger though is that they can clear the body blocking infantry for Colin, and then the few tanks he has are suddenly extremely valuable at killing Colin artillery. So there's the mega on the HQ that I think we were all expecting. Um, Trying to see if the mega tank has like a seam to attack in here, but it's going to be on a road, so it doesn't look so good because you could do medium tank attack, kill the artillery, mega kill the artillery, but that's just losing way too much. Okay, I saw the I saw the bar come up and I was like, oh no, did he resign? No, he wouldn't do that. So I think up here it's better to go for, yeah, it's better to spread out your damage so that no one infantry can hit your full HP infantry super hard. So Kanbei has Samurai Spirit ready to go. Um, we might actually see him use it now, though. Like that's a possibility. Just because it looks like Voice of Akasha has diverted enough units to the HQ that he's not going to get an HQ cheese. So yeah, maybe we'll see Jokas just have an attacking Samurai Spirit to clear all the body blockers for Voice of Akasha while moving up his artillery to push back Colin's artillery. So we'll see if we see two mega tank builds here. Um, that's kind of what I'm anticipating. They're like Colin's saving grace right now. I mean, like once he gets two more mega tanks out, he'll have five. And at that point, Jokas just doesn't have the artillery numbers to deal with that many mega tanks. And here are just the closing second mega tank. Yep, there it is. Yeah, I mean, as much as the Gold Rush like mega money strat is like, no, despite it being really cool, I just don't think it's ideal for a lot of situations. A lot of times, it's just better to get the good tech unit out and then start saving up later if you need it. I mean, like the two mega tanks are like even more strongly forced because of the HQ pressure, but just five was it 5 mega tanks versus 10 artillery? Yeah, that's difficult to deal with for Jokas. Okay, here's Samurai Spirit. You know what Jokas could do maybe is at least a lot of injured infantry, but he could move all of his artillery, like sort of switch to the middle, scare all of these artillery away from their um, positions, and then start capturing a bunch of cities. Um, Because yeah, like Kanbei, I guess he's at like a threshold now where he can comfortably put out two artillery and infantry per turn. Um, but like extra income is always appreciated. It's cool to see both players speed up a bit. Like I think we're at a point in the game where it's just like pure tactics, and of course then your strategic builds. Um, at least the last few turns have been tactics. We might see like a big strategic move here from Jokas if he decides to like move all of his artillery into this part of the map and push back Voice of Akasha's artillery. So there's the first artillery threat. Looks like he might just double down on the bottom here though. Second artillery, I'd expect. Okay. Oh, he can build my artillery here. Okay. So I'm not really sure that Jokas got a whole lot out of his Super CO power. It is going to push this artillery and this artillery away now. Okay, so that's using the power more. So yeah, he's like sort of formed a right angle with his artillery. Yeah, it seems pretty strong. The nice thing about this formation is like these 5 artillery um, all smack these 5 squares. So Voice of Akasha really has to look out and make sure that his mega tanks when they sit here are going to be hit over and over again by artillery fire. So yeah, it's a pretty strong position now that it's all come together. And right now it's protected by invincible or by really high defense infantry, so it's even better. Yeah, man, it's a really good artillery wall. Okay, a couple artillery shots went off. Um, you almost would have liked to see these artillery move closer to center to like get rid of these walls along the outside of this artillery firing range. I didn't talk about Voice of Akasha's recon build. Uh, Seems good, like it's better than an infantry, and he can afford recon over infantry, so it's fine. So one nice thing is this B copter is invincible to artillery fire, and the anti-air is pretty far away. Wow, that mega tank shot killed a Samurai Spirit 8 HP tank. Pretty impressive. So is the B copter going to interrupt this infantry capture? Looks like not. So maybe he'll just give this one away. Okay, mega tank into triple artillery coverage is pretty rough, but now that I look at it, these 3 artillery are overloaded anyways. This one wants to hit this anti-air, this one wants to hit this mega tank. This one, well, only has this target, so he has 3 openings and there are 3 uh, artillery. So I'm actually expecting like maybe some infantry or tanks? No, probably just straight infantry from. Sorry, I can't pass up the opportunity to point out that 8-8 split. Recon onto infantry, both on the road. Wowee. Um, but yeah, maybe he could build another artillery and some infantry and then expect Gold Rush the next turn. So yeah, maybe artillery, artillery, infantry. Well, that would be fine. Yeah. Whoops. Rockets. Okay. Yeah, I mean that'll push away part of this artillery wall here. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, it seems good. Okay, so actually he full buys and does rocket tank tank. Um, I guess with the idea that like Jokas's artillery are just way too oppressive in the center left, and that he needs to push them out. It's interesting to see Voice of Akasha heal both his 1 HP tank and his 2 HP tank up to 6 after they were hit. I think the idea is like he just can't afford to fall behind in unit count in an artillery showdown. Hmm. So do Colin mega tanks one shot can be artillery? They do on plains and sometimes on forests. So that's going to be a key thing to look out for next turn because we can see artillery clear this infantry, mega tank clear the infantry, and then you can have mega tank kill, mega tank kill. And I think you're okay with trading mega tanks for artillery when they're this close to your HQ. And it's not like an even trade either, you know. Get in on the artillery and then the wall starts to crumble. Hmm. Jokas seems to be thinking long and hard about this. I guess long and hard combined does make lard. So, yeah, I think he kind of has to move this artillery wall. Otherwise, we see something like that. And then you go here. And then these two artillery and the mega tank kill this. And then this guy moves in, kills that. And then you move all your stuff up. Like that's, I think it's losing too much artillery because there's an awful lot of mega tanks left over. So it's kind of looking like the artillery are here to stay. My gut tells me that's not a good idea. Hey, Voice of Akasha popped in. Thanks, Megatanks, for making playing against Kanbei viable. Yeah, I thought that stealths were unbanned until Jokas told me, and I was expecting some stealth stuff, but yeah, Megatanks are really good. Looks like. So yeah, this like finally answers my question, which is when you go medium tank artillery, and then Kanbei goes artillery infantry, what do you do? The answer is if you're calling, you can build mega tanks and like a lot of them. But if you're not calling, I am still a little bit unsure of what to do. But the good news is if you're in standard, you're either like Colin or Hachi, where you build mega tanks. Your Sensei, where you I think you just have a different game plan. Um, you do like mech stuff, or your Grit, where you're probably not going to win. So. Yeah, or stealth if they aren't banned. Yeah. Mhm. And actually, furthermore, this is a Kanbei map in the sense that it's like smallish, and when it's at full capacity, like when all the properties are captured, Kanbei is at 18,000, which is like 15,000 for everyone else. So he gets his 2 vehicle and an infantry build. It does take a while though to capture all the properties. So, and the middle is like has a fair amount of mountains in it. So artillery spam, well, seems to be like a little easier to make formations around artillery spam on this map than others. So yeah, here I expect to see some mega tank on artillery action. We'll see how many artillery can be cleared. Sorry, I'll move my cursor. Suicide attack, that's cool. Oh, it still doesn't kill though. But that infantry will finish it off. Ooh, wait, that was a roll and he got it. It's a big deal. At least I thought it was a roll when I just looked it up. So yeah, it's time for some artillery to die. You know, Voice of Akasha actually has an awful lot of suicidable units, which is like really relevant in these high defense scenarios. Yep, so it looks like here are 3 artillery that are about to die. Now the only thing Voice of Akasha needs to worry about is running out of ammo on his mega tanks. So I guess I'm expecting just infantry from him this turn, and then he'll have a couple gold rushes ready to go on some pretty high income. Sorry, some pretty high bank, big bank. Okay, so Jokas to move. I think he's in a lot of trouble. We can look at the unit count of different things. Um, so Jokas has 9 artillery, and Voice of Akasha has 5 mega tanks. So the thing is, mega tanks, 1-shot artillery, and artillery looks like 4-shot mega tanks. So there are just not enough body blockers, I think. And I think the artillery count's just going to get wiped out. And then Kanbei won't really have an effective way of getting back in the game. Okay, he resigns. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I think that's a fair resign. He's just gonna lose too many. He's gonna lose too many artillery here, and then he has nothing to stop the mega tanks. So yeah, GG. That was a really educational game. I definitely learned a lot, and I think that for all of our Call-in enthusiasts out there, they're gonna definitely have to watch this game a few times. Yep. So yeah, that's the game. I'll just go over True Samurai Boss. Yeah, thanks, Voice of Akasha. Thank you both for sort of letting me know about this and sharing this interesting game with us. So let me just quickly go over some key points in the game. So things got started off pretty hot right away when Voice of Akasha went for this double artillery build with a skipped infantry. This turned out to be a really cool idea because it gets him ahead in the vehicle count right away, and like these artillery were pretty active and doing a lot of stuff. This was like the turns that follow were the really critical turns for Colin in order to stay alive versus Kanbei, and then reach a good saturation of artillery to prevent attacks from going off, so he can save and get some juicy gold rushes and get out those mega tanks. Jokas chimes in as usual. Kanbei needs to succeed in his mid-game push transition. Yeah. Okay, so we'll just do like this. So Jokas responds with an artillery. It's his like personal preference. Like a lot of players might build a tank instead. And then I showed at one point that Kanbei tank into a pair of artillery actually comes out ahead in terms of gold value. So maybe that's something to keep in mind later. But so Jokas goes artillery. And not to doubt Jokas. Jokas is really good at artillery openings, much better than I am. So he goes for artillery. More artillery from Voice of Akasha. And then, yeah, Jokas didn't have enough money for another vehicle build here. And so now we reach a point where Jokas just made his turn, has 2 vehicles against 4 of Colin's vehicles. So Jokas says also tank means 1 less infantry. Yeah, sure. So Voice of Akasha was able to fan out his artillery in a way that gave him some income denial against Jokas, as well as securing some income of his own. There were a couple of difficult decisions here once the medium tank got deployed about whether to spread out and go for income denial or clump and go for army attack. But Voice of Akasha was able to spread out his forces without getting like rammed in the middle. So here, Voice of Akasha is at 7 artillery and a medium tank versus 4 artillery and 2 tanks. Again, it's just like Colin's advantage pushing him ahead, and then Voice of Akasha went for stall to so that he could charge a little bit and get his power. Like charge bank, I mean. So there was a big initial engagement here. So Jokas makes like a pretty strong attack. Sort of attacks through this entire front while setting up his artillery to defend it. Just go through this quickly. Gets an artillery smack and then sets up a lot of artillery defending against land units. And this was right around the point where Voice of Akasha started saving money, but spending it on megatanks while not breaking the bank. So the megatanks started coming out, and they were extremely useful at securing his own HQ. Started moving his forces from the corners down into the center where they can do more. Gold Rush gets him another mega tank. Jokas makes some attacks here, and then he makes a really, really nice artillery formation. Not this turn, but the next turn. His infantry are like pretty scary because they're starting to wipe out the body blockers for Colin. Voice of Akasha makes it a priority not to lose too many properties throughout this exchange. At this point, Jokas is also threatening Super CO power, which is a big deal. So Voice of Akasha plants a mega tank on the HQ to make sure nothing happens. And with his Gold Rush, he goes double mega tank. Here is like a pretty critical number. We have 5 mega tanks for Colin versus 10 artillery for Jokas. And I think that just simply isn't enough artillery. As we saw, artillery like 4-shot or 3-shot, I think it's 4-shot mega tanks in the Kanbei versus Colin matchup. So like even if all of his artillery fired on the full bulk of mega tanks, there aren't enough shots to even kill 3, and then the remaining 2.5 can do a lot of work. So like that's kind of a scary situation where you have so many mega tanks against this number of artillery. And then Samurai Spirit results in this really cool formation here, where you have 5 artillery battering down this area. But Voice of Akasha makes a really nice attack into Samurai Spirit and overloads these corner artillery with mega tanks. So here we have this artillery once. We have 3 artillery and 3 potential targets. So it's hard to decide what to hit with the artillery. But crucially, Jokas decides to stay in this artillery formation, but the artillery down here open up a big attack into the artillery blob. So, like a fine position if you can keep it, but he can't keep it because artillery mega tank destroys this infantry, and then the mega tanks get first strike on all these artillery. And at this point, it's just simply that the mega tanks got too good of a first strike on all these artillery, and there's not much to do. That's not to say like the game, like, let's see, what was the turn? The turn that he stayed here, I mean, like, retreating is like a dangerous option too because you're giving up a lot of ground that you just won, and I think your artillery, like as much as you spam artillery, you might still fall behind in the mega tank game. And plus, this rocket's coming in to sort of seal up a late game scenario where the rocket will constantly push the artillery back. So Jokas isn't in a great spot here, anyways. And then the initiation on the artillery really seal the deal. Oh, so the voice of Akasha says, I might have needed to transition to megas a bit earlier. That's interesting. So at this point, maybe he could have built a mega. Um, Jokas says, I could back yes, but at this step of the game, it's lost for Kanbe. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd agree with that. So yeah, mega here. Um, yeah, actually, a mega here sounds great because at this point he only has three artillery. Four? Oh, there's one hiding up here. Yeah, he would need to concentrate his artillery in order to answer the mega tank. Um, Otherwise, he could just push it in. So Colin can grind out Arties or clear them with Super CO power eventually, but it might take too long if the Arties get into a good spot to pressure HQ and enough properties. Too long. Yeah, during Jokas's attack, he did a great job of threatening city captures, which kind of diverted artillery fire from uh, that would normally be used on infantry at lower defense rates from the terrain. Um, and yeah, the fact that he was attacking the HQ with sometimes with the threat of Samurai Spirit really made it a pretty like sort of forced the voice of Akasha's hand a bit to like really heavily defend this area. For instance, like he couldn't retreat when the artillery got into the range of artillery over here, or maybe not that scenario, but there were times where Colin would have liked to retreat and keep his artillery safe, but he just kind of had to sit out there and take some hits in order to keep his HQ alive. Okay, anything else to add, you guys, or shall I just wrap up the stream? I need lunch. I need lunch really bad. Okay, all right. Thank you all for joining me, and thank you again to Voice of Kasha and Jokas um, for coming in and playing this great game for us. So yeah, thanks. I'll see you next time.